Oh, the GoXLR is dead. The device that every single streamer wanting a professional XLR audio setup would buy for the past 4 years is now a ticking time bomb waiting for one Windows update to make it a very expensive paperweight. This means we need to find a new mixer that can do everything the GoXLR can do and more. It needs to handle demanding microphones like the Shure Sm7b. It needs powerful EQ for buttery crisp vocals. It needs silly voice effects and multiple programmable tracks for perfect audio control. That was the journey I set out on, but little did I know this would mean months of research, experimenting with dozens of different softwares, microphones, mixers, and wasting hundreds of dollars. But now, I think I've found it. The device that will do everything the GoXLR did and more for half the price. But first, why the heck was the GoXLR so popular? Look, if we're being absolutely honest with ourselves, the GoXLR isn't the best piece of audio equipment out there. It's expensive, bulky, and while it does the job, the main reason it dominated the streaming market was because of the ability to route our audio sources to multiple channels and control them individually on stream with these little sliders. Other tools do this, but the GoXLR made it simple for streamers who lacked audio experience. That's it, they made it market accessible. By, for example, letting me take audio from Chrome, which would be playing music from a YouTube video, and then I could route that Chrome specifically to the music output on the GoXLR and to the broadcast stream mix output. So I could then control the volume or entirely mute my music using the music slider. But more importantly, I could also open OBS and add all of my sliders or audio sources to their own tracks. So when I finished my stream or finished recording, I could open Premiere Pro, my editing software, and I'd have 6 different tracks, each with its own individual audio source, meaning my voice, my game, and my music were all separated, making editing easier. This is a feature that other mixers and tools really never got right. Even the Rodecaster Pro 2 never added this properly, despite saying they were going to add it. If you don't know, I was one of the first 10 people in the world to be sent the Rodecaster Pro 2, and I was told the feature would be added a few months after launch. That was years ago, and I'm pretty sure they still haven't added it. But ladies and gentlemen, boils and ghouls, have no fear. I'd like to introduce to you the Roland BridgeCast. I'm using it right now, if I can't pick it up. This device has somehow snuck under everyone's radar, despite it being made by a professional audio company, despite it being able to do everything the GoXLR could, and despite it being half the price of the GoXLR. So let's quickly rattle off some of the key features to give you the rundown now, because I know a lot of you don't care about the spicy stuff, and then I'll go into detail for the nerds in a second. The BridgeCast sells for $420 dues roughly, that's Australian dollars, so about 250 USD, making it really competitive, since its two main competitors are the GoXLR, which the full size still costs roughly $800 dues, and the Rodecaster Pro 2, which is anywhere between $900 to $1,200 dues. Now you'd think this means this little device is going to lack a lot of what those two tools have, but it is actually the opposite. For example, it provides 75 dB of gain for your microphones, whereas the Rodecaster Pro 2 and the GoXLR provide 76 dB and 72 dB respectively. Much like the GoXLR and Rodecaster, it has full voice effects such as reverb, pitch shifting, etc. Again, I'll cover that in more detail soon. It has a 32 dB float point, unlike the other two, which are 24-bit, I believe. I say I believe because documentation on the GoXLR and the Rodecaster Pro 2 is weirdly scarce, but for the BridgeCast, this is kind of incredible. I don't want to bog you down in a bunch of numbers, but essentially float point determines the total range of audio volume that can be recorded. So an example is, if your device has a 24-bit float, then your audio recordings can capture a dynamic range of up to 144.5 dB. But a 32-bit float does 1,528 dB of dynamic range. Simply put, this means it is far more flexible. The audio range is more than humanly possible. Form factor, this is a selling point a lot of companies never mention, but we all feel this as creators. The BridgeCast is about 50% of the size of the full GoXLR and a third of the size of the Rodecaster 2, which is amazing because desk real estate for me is very valuable. So making a tool that takes less space but does more is a dream come true. Now, I will break a few hearts with this one. It does use knobs instead of sliders. If you're a professional audio engineer or love this kind of stuff, you might be a bit let down. But as a streamer and content creator, we aren't really in need of sliders. It's more set and forget for us. It does have these great programmable mute buttons on each knob, so again, you can route any source you want to each knob and then program the mute button to mute for yourself or for stream, for both, or actually do anything else you want. It comes with this really nice software, which was a bit daunting at first, but once I got into it, I found it was so much easier to use than similar software like the GoXLR or the SteelSeries Sonar. For example, when setting up your mic, you can adjust the gain and talk to try to get your levels right. which for most mixers, when doing this process, they show you a single bar that says how loud you are at the exact moment of speaking. But I loved the BridgeCast because it uses a graph, and it can show me the rough idea of my overall levels and not just the loud starts of my sentences or the quiet ends where I trail off naturally, so I can get a nice understanding of how loud I am. The EQ and mic adjustment tools are all the expected ones. There's compressors, noise reduction, DSs, etc. Except again, I found the layout a tiny bit daunting, and then afterwards I realized, oh god, I love how straightforward it is, and forgot how much I prefer visually seeing my EQ graph as I set it up to make my voice crystal clear, which I have a cold right now, so it doesn't sound that, but you get it. For comparison, the GoXLR just has the little sliders for their EQ, and that's it, which yeah, of course it does the job, but I'm such a visual person, and I'm also used to parametric equalizers in editing software, so having the graph helps me immensely. Speaking of EQ, this is something personally I won't use, but they've had a Valorant-obsessed audio engineer on the team create EQ tools for your game source. Yeah, so if you're playing Valorant, Apex, or any of these other shooters, you can add EQ to what you're hearing so that footsteps, reload sounds, gunshots on the other side of the map, all the things that give you an edge are more pronounced. It's kind of like turning on cheats, but it's legal. And let's be real, this sounds like the team over at Roland are massive nerds, and I kind of love that. And if you need more proof these guys aren't just audio experts, but absolute gamers, they also added compressors and de-esser tools for your chat sources. So essentially, if your mates in the Discord call can't stop screaming their little heads off, don't worry, the compressor will catch and stop them blowing your viewers' ears out. Now, there are loads of other great tools and features, but I want to move on to cover a few of the important ones in more detail. So I'll wrap this part up by saying it is a dual bus mixer. This means two separate audio mixes, so one can be sent to you and then a completely different mix to your stream individually. This is sick, and again, I will cover it more soon. Okay, so I think you can see how the device is built to provide amazing tools to give you great audio, but what about the fun stuff? How's the clicky-clacky button press feel? What about that spicy shit? One part I think any GoXLR user might be a bit upset about is the lack of tactile pads, both for voice effects, sample pads, and more. Personally, I was a little disappointed by this, but after using the BridgeCast for about 3 to 4 months now, I've realized how much easier it is to clean when it doesn't have those tactile pads. I am a filthy boy who gets things dirty with these grubby little Dorito hands, and also I realized how little I actually use those tactile pads these days when recording and streaming. So personally, when it came down to it, I really didn't have any issues getting used to, instead of the pads, using the 2 buttons at the top of the BridgeCast to turn the effects on or off or select which effect I'm actually using. Especially because the mute button and actually all the buttons have a really nice feedback to them, so you know when you've pressed it. Same with the knobs, you feel every click without it actually making a sound. I don't know about you guys, but with the GoXLR, sometimes I would hit a tactile pad, one of those soft pads, and I would have to double check and actually look to make sure I pressed it. Whereas this, I get a click, I know that it's on. And what the BridgeCast lacks in not having buttons or controls on it, such as the GoXLR voice effects for knobs, it makes up for inside with the software I mentioned. For example, as you can see here, I am routing my microphone source to knob 1, my music source to knob 2, my chat source, so Discord audio, to knob 3, and my game source to knob 4, allowing me to independently control the levels of each, and as I said, these can be changed to fit your needs. But just quickly, before I move on to submixing, which is just so cool, yes, you can also adjust the colors of all of the knobs here in the software as well. Now, what the hell is submixing, or more correctly put, dual bus mixing? Well, on the BridgeCast, you always have 2 mixes running. The first is stream mix and the other is personal mix, aka one you can hear and one stream can hear. You can swap between what you're listening to with this little button here as well, and having 2 independent mixes at the same time means you can make it so your stream is hearing one mix and you are hearing another. So for example, you want to put music behind your Valorant game for your stream, but you need it quiet so you can hear enemy footsteps. Well, lower the music for your side, but keep it nice and loud for the viewers on the stream mix. This is just scratching the surface of what you can do, but as someone who has pretty terrible hearing because of some health stuff as a kid, being able to boost my game and voice so I can hear everything nicely without deafening my stream is incredibly powerful. Speaking of being helpful, this video is pretty helpful. It's all about budget gear. Go check that out. See you guys next week.